joining from the Joint Research Center of the European Commission in Spain, Seville. I'm a member of the PANAP Secretariat. And as you might know already, PANAP is the Pan-African Network for the Analysis of Policies, and is organized among a series of activities. The network is organizing also this monthly webinar to share the main activities that are going on within the network in the association, institution which are members of the network, and so also to discuss key political and methodological issues related to the analysis that are ongoing. So today we have the pleasure to have organized this seminar on food system in Kenya, looking at in particular food security, nutrition, market system, and policy coherence. So let me thank the colleagues that joined from the Kenyan Institute of Public Policy Research and Analysis, KIPRA, who organized this seminar and are offering the three presenters for the today discussions. So the seminar will present the findings from three complementary studies that have been finalized within the KIPRA institution on the food system transformation in Kenya. These studies, they complement each other, looking at different features of the food system transformation in the country. So we will hear each of the three. The first one will be about adoption, production, and consumption of sorghum and millet as climate-smart and nutrition crops that have the potential to contribute to sustainable food system and household food security. Then we will have a second study that will examine the impact of informal food markets in mitigating fruit and vegetable waste within the context of urban food insecurity in Kenya. And finally, the third study will examine policy and institutions supporting food and nutrition security in Kenya, including area of weakness that can be strengthened through better implementation and coherence of these policies. So, as usual, we'll try to stay between 1.5 hours, 2 hours top for the whole seminar. So given that we have three presentations, I will invite the presenters not to go much beyond 25 minutes so that we can leave some time for questions after each presentation, and then we can have an overall discussion at the end of the three presentations. So without much ado, I will leave now introduce our first presenter and leave him the word. So Hilary, if you want to already start, put again your presentation on. While I'm presenting him, I will also add that during his presentation, I will add in the chat a link we'll be asking to the presenter to, we'll be asking to attendance to the seminar to fulfill a quick survey, and please give us your feedbacks about the seminar. So I will share it with you in the chat. Please, before leaving, don't forget. I will also remind you, but don't forget to fill in this survey. So. As I was saying, I will now leave the word to Hilary Wakungu, who is a member of the Kenya Institute of Public Policy Research and Analysis, a policy analyst expert there. At KIPRA, his work is dedicated to research on food security, nutrition, and policy analysis, in particular generating evidence-informed approaches towards achieving sustainable food system and translation of evidence into decision-ready policy products. So Hilary, please, again, if you can upload your presentation. I think it's now disappeared.
It has disappeared. Okay.
So it will open the series of these three presentations, talking about food system in Kenya, addressing food system in Kenya, adoption, production, and consumption of sorghum and millet for enhanced food security and nutrition in Kenya. So perhaps in 25 minutes, I will give you hands up so that you might going towards the conclusion of your talk, if you don't mind. Right?
Yep, that will be in order.
The floor is yours. In the meanwhile, if people want, they can use both the chat and the Q&A possibility to raise the questions. And as I said, we will have a quick set of discussion after each presentation, and then overall discussion at the end of the session.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hilary. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ferrari. Colleagues, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm going to present today's presentation on food system in Kenya, opportunity and potential of sorghum and millet for strengthening food security and nutrition. To start, I'm Wahongo Hilary, policy analyst in the productive sector department in KIPRA, as Ferrari has already introduced. KIPRA is a public organization that deals with the policy analysis in evidence, advising the government through evidence in terms of research. And we also do capacity building and other three main core duties that KIPRA do. Without much ado, I would like to go straight to the presentation. And to start off is just to highlight that food system, as we understand, it is a very important component in terms of it is encompassing and addresses all the interlinked value adding activities that are involved in not only production of foods, but also in market aggregation of the products and the processing, as well as distribution channels, whereby you get how food reach from farm to fork, and also addresses matter of consumption in terms of the food security, and also disposal of food products is also encompassed in the food systems. And we also understand that food products are part of a broader economic, societal, and nature environment in which they are embedded in, and that is the spirit behind the food systems as we understand. So in Kenya, we understand that food system does not only look at production, but also we look at factors such as storage and distribution of the foods. We look at processing and also markets, as we will later see in another presentation that my colleague will be looking at. Food environment is a very important area in the food system, whereby we look at the quality and safety, promotion and advertisement, as well as availability and physical access, of which it shows how the distance is where production is and the consumption of the food is found. So that's just a nutshell on the food system. In Kenya, we understand that the food system is facing a growing challenge in that we are nearing 51 million in terms of population. So the population increase, and also we can see that the climate variability, that there is high, we depend mostly on rain-fed agriculture in our food system. So climate variability have been affecting us greatly. There's long droughts, and when there's rain, there's also intense rain, which are coming in terms that the farmers are not prepared for, hence either destroying farms, farm crops, or even livestock. So exerting more pressure on our food system. There's also an aspect of resilience and vulnerabilities of staple crops. We know that we are in Kenya, we depend mostly on starchy staple, that is maize, and if there's over-reliance of this, we see that we are vulnerable if there'll be a total failure or there'll be a disruption in terms of production per se. So this all has not only has an effect on the food insecurity situation, but also has contributed to malnutrition that has been persistent in our country, as noticed in the KDHS 2022, which noted that the level of undernutrition is at least as 18%, and this this is not a good thing that we need to address. There's also potential we can get in our food system, in that Kenyan is blessed with a lot of potential in indigenous crops, and some of them, such as sorghum and millet, not only provide high nutritional value, as we'll see, but also are resilient to climate extremity. So this is a good opportunity whereby it can offer a sustainable alternative to the starch staples that we have been relying on. So, however, there are a lot of constraints that comes with these crops, and some of them we have identified in other publications, such as which is the most rampant one is the uncertified seeds, hence that causes a total failure in terms of when the farmers grow, or the performance of these crops are not to the level that is expected by the farmers, and this have a lot of negative impact in terms of the adoption of the sorghum and millet as alternative to the starch staple. There's also limited extension services and also poor infrastructure, as well as post-harvest losses that affect the productivity and profitability of these crops. Hence, the low adoption in terms of their use in the country to mitigate the issues of climate change and also the issues of malnutrition. We also understand that our National Agroecology Strategy for Food Systems Transformation 2024 to 2033 highlight that there's need for a transformation to be done in terms of the food system, in that there's need to promote drought resilient crops like sorghum, millet, which not only help to diversify the food supply, but also enhance resilience and improve nutrition and support to the livelihood. Kenyan food system, as I had already noted earlier, is that we are facing increasingly vulnerable to climate change, and also there's recurrent droughts and also floods. Heavy dependency on starch staples has made our systems to be very shaky, and also there's a declining agricultural productivity, as seen in our Economic Survey 2026, which showed some worrying trend in terms of food production in our country. Hence, there is need for us to adopt to climate resilient crops such as sorghum and millet, and the reasons are in that research has shown that they are of high nutritive value, they are tolerant to a myriad of drought and other climate variabilities, and they are highly adaptable to various along the various environmental cases, and this can also be a good opportunity for people in ASAL and also people in those areas that where the maize does not, or the starch staple does not do well in terms of production. We also understand that for us in Kenya, we have we don't have shortages of policies and also legislation that can help us adopt these important crops, the sorghum and millet. For instance, we have seed quality policy that looks at national seed policy that shows that there is a target to constrain in the seed subsector for better productivity. However, this policy lack focus on indigenous crop, hence there is need for that gap to be addressed. Another policy that is very important is the food and nutrition security, which advocates for multi-sectoral action for hunger eradication. However, there is are limitations in terms of it's not addressing the issue of indigenous crops directly, hence missing out on the nutritive and also the resilience of millet and sorghum to fight the malnutrition and also for climate resilience. There's also Indigenous Crops Act 2013, which promote crop competitiveness, but it has omitted the indigenous crop conservation, hence leaving this space not to be covered. And thus there's need for us also to look at the policy that supports the indigenous crop diversification in our farming system. We had three objectives in this study. We wanted to investigate the factors that influence adoption of sorghum and millet certified seeds in Kenya. We understand that research has shown that if certified seeds are used, there is a potential for increased production, and also there is a less attack from pests and diseases because of its resilience. Hence, we wanted to understand why are farmers not adopting to sorghum and millet certified seeds that are available at our national seed production company, the Kenya Seed, and other private vendors private organizations that have certified seeds that have been seen to be well developed for various climatic conditions in our country. We also wanted to examine the determinants of sorghum and millet production in our country, because we've seen that although it is high in terms of profitability and also nutrition, there is less production in terms of output across the board if you compare to other nations in the West, such as Nigeria and Ghana. So the third objective was to evaluate the drivers of sorghum and millet consumption in our country, in that if the consumption will be higher, there will be also it will show that the demand is high, and we can easily advocate for millet and sorghum consumption. So in our methods, we used various methods, and in our first, the theoretical framework for adoption of millet and sorghum, which was our first objective, we used the utility maximization theory, which explains how farmers decide to adopt, either to adopt certified seeds or uncertified seeds, or not to adopt certified seeds in general, in terms of production of sorghum and millet. We understand that this theory assumes that farmers are rational and seek to maximize their utility, subject to resource endowment, and also this decision of either to adopt certified seed is based on the potential utility the farmer expects from higher yield, such as better market prices and also improved resilience. Hence, the theory will help us to understand that first objective of why farmers adopt or not adopt certified seeds in millet and sorghum production. Then in our theoretical framework for production of millet and sorghum, we wanted to understand in our second objective factors influencing or determinants of production of millet and sorghum. Hence, we used production theory, which focused on the relationship between inputs, and we wanted to see the aspects of labor, capital, and land, and how it relates to the output, which is the yield of sorghum and millet as such. So the theory is used to explain how farmers use the available resources in this study, that is the inputs to cultivate certain crops, which in this study is sorghum and millet, to them and the expected return from production. So the study, at the end, we adopted the Gob-Douglas form of production function. I wanted to show the whole formulation of the equation, but there will be a lot of slides, so I skipped the technical bits. So the theoretical framework, in our third objective, we want to look at the consumption of millet and sorghum, factors influencing the consumption. So we looked at the household consumption theory, which in this study was employed to understand the demand behavior of millet and sorghum consuming households, of which the theory asserts that each household is assumed to maximize its random utility subject to a linear budget constraint, and such a household's consumption decisions are usually affected by production, market conditions, and also household characteristics, as we'll see in our analysis. So the analytical framework for adoption of millet and sorghum, we adopted the probit model, which we analyzed the factor influencing the adoption of millet and sorghum certified seeds as shown, and we'll see how the findings were in terms of the adoption of millet and sorghum is concerned. For production, we used the second objective, we model using the Heckman selection model for sample selection bias correction, which is a two-step analysis. First, we estimated the selection model, that is the household's choice to plant two crops as shown in the equation. One is the millet and second is sorghum. And the probability of planting millet or sorghum estimated was estimated separately, in that either the farmers chose to plant sorghum or millet or any other crop that they wish to plant. So the outcome equation estimates the yield from either choosing to plant sorghum or millet, and as shown by the model 3.13, where the outcome variable is the Q, which is millet or sorghum yield, and then the parameters x1 to x9 are the household characteristics, and then we have the error term. Then the final estimation equation that to achieve the second objective, which involved inclusion of the inverse Mills ratio, is as shown, and then we captured the error effect of the selection of the outcome variable. So the analytical model we have modeled in terms of the consumption of millet. The model consumption demand for millet and sorghum is as follows, where we formulated in one, we formulated millet consumption alone. Second, we looked at factors influencing sorghum consumption, and the factors are as highlighted in these equations. And then we also wanted to see, because our households in Kenya here either consume sorghum and millet alone or sorghum and millet combined. So we also looked at households that consume sorghum and millet combined, and the factors that are contributing to that. So our data source was from KIBS 2015-2016, of which this data was collected in a 12-month period, and this data also primarily includes data on households, characteristics, production, consumption patterns, nutrition aspects. Also market variables are also captured, and also incomes and indicators such as credit, and also variable that that were used in this study were primarily from KIBS dataset. So now descriptive statistics. We saw that among the millet farming household, 37 were headed by female, while 32.4% across all households were headed by were male-headed households. And this also points to a situation whereby millet consumption will either be influenced by the head of the family, gender that is male or female, as we'll see later. Then comparative proportion is even higher among sorghum farmers. We saw that sorghum farmers were higher. No, the female households that are headed by female households that are growing sorghum are higher at 46.8%. This suggests that millet and sorghum farming is more prevalent among households headed by females. So those households that grow millet, as we have seen, that use certified seeds, they're less in terms of millet. Only 4.3 uses certified seeds, while sorghum, only 10.5 households use certified seeds. In terms of the cropping system, as one of the variables that we have used, we see that those that use the farming system that pure stand are higher in terms of the millet at 63%, and also sorghum is less than 50%, which is 41.2%. Just quick to the results. When we looked at the factors influencing use of certified seeds in terms of millet farming, it's clear that farmers who we looked at the source of these seeds, the age, also the number of acreage, and also millet quantity that was used for planting. And also we looked at the household income and also millet seed price. When we did our analysis, we found out that farmers, those that use certified seeds, were those seeds, millet seed sources, those that use certified seeds were more likely to get the seeds from other farmers. Hence, this shows that farmers that used uncertified seeds were more that let me come again. When you look at factors influencing use of certified seeds in millet farming, we saw that a lot of farmers get seeds from other farmers. Hence, we need to address that issue in that they are more likely to get seeds from other farms than from commercial outlets that provide certified seeds. And then when you look at the millet seed price, we saw that the price of seeds influence if the farmer will use certified seeds or not. Hence, the pricing is also a factor that need to be addressed at the end of the day. On factors influencing, on factor influencing use of certified seeds in sorghum, the trend is still likely the same in terms of source of the seed. We see that the seed, when farmers are more likely to get these seeds from other farmers, hence that is a factor that we need to also look at. Seeds from own production, a lot of farmers, not a significant number of farmers are also more likely to get seeds from own production for use in terms of the cultivation of sorghum crop. And also the total area of land also influences the use of certified seeds, in that it negatively impacts on the type of seed that they'll use, as we see by the negative sign of our analysis. Then the quantity, the household income also affects the choice of seeds in sorghum farming, in that farmers are more likely to plant using certified seeds if they have their income aspect is well. Then factors in millet yield, we see that millet seed type and also farming system in terms of intercropping is more likely or will increase maybe the production by 204 maybe kgs kgs per acre. And we also see that acre under millet negatively affect the production, in that less farming can, or less millet yield is realized when there is a high acreage under millet. Then factors influencing sorghum yield. The results shows that the cropping system, if it's intercropped, there is less production of sorghum, as we have seen by the less by 63 points. And then also there's a significant reduction when the cropping system is strip or the farmers adopt strip farming. Then acres of sorghum grown, we see that the less production is seen when farmers grow crops over a large area. Then household income influences negatively the sorghum yield, and this is a factor that we need to address because studies have also shown that households that grow sorghum and millet are associated with poor households in other studies. Then factors that influence consumption of, don't know, this aspect is returning. Factors influencing millet consumption, we see that the household size, presence of a child in a household, and also poverty status. Household size positively influences the consumption of millet, in that a small household will be able to consume, or will be more likely to consume sorghum. Then presence of a child in a household also increases the chances or reduces the chances of increases the chances of millet consumption. And poverty, we see that houses that are more poor are less likely to consume millet. And this has been shown in other studies about farmers or households that are poor are not, they cannot access this millet sometimes because of its value in terms of the profitability. Hence, most of it is sold for beer manufacturing and others. Factors that influence sorghum is also following the same trend in that households size positively influences sorghum consumption, in that the less members in a household, the higher likelihood of consumption of sorghum product or sorghum itself. Also, the level of education, we see that the higher the level of education, the less likely is it for a household to consume or for a person to consume um, sorghum. And this we can relate to it in terms of the knowledge that they have in terms of the consumption. Then also we see that the price of sorghum, the higher the price, the less likely the household to consume the sorghum product. And also this can be seen that the pricing also influences consumption. Combined together, we can see that those factors that have been highlighted to either influence sorghum or millet are still even being noted, in that the household size, the presence of a child, mostly influences the consumption of sorghum and millet. And also we can see the poverty status the poverty status. One is it reduces the chances of consumption of sorghum and millet, and it is something that we need to investigate further to know why it is so. Yet we understand from other publications that this sorghum and millet have been associated with low economic household that we can use it to fight malnutrition and other nutrition issues. Then level of education, when you combine together, we see that both primary education, secondary and tertiary are like, if you have increased education status, it reduces the chances of you consuming sorghum and millet. And it is something that we need to investigate further. Why is it that when people are more educated, they are less likely to consume sorghum and millet? Yet we understand that they know about its nutritive value and also its health benefits that have been highlighted in most studies. On the
Hilary,
pricing,
can I ask you if you could try to go toward the closure of the presentation? Thank you.
yeah,
Great, great.
I'm just remaining with one slide.
Thank you again. Sorry for interruption.
When we look at the price of sorghum, you see that the higher the price, the less likely sorghum to be consumed, sorghum and millet to be consumed. And this highlights that pricing affects consumption of sorghum and millet in our study. So we have a few recommendations that we have reached at when you look at the totality of, in terms of the seed type, that is certified seed production, on the production, and also the factors influencing production, as well as the consumption. We wanted to map and give each one of it a recommendation, in that there is need for policies to be implemented that focus on reducing seed prices, enhancing commercial seed distribution. When you look at the source of the seed where the farmers get, influences positively the production of millet and sorghum. And also there's need to shift perception around seed sources to improve agricultural productivity and food security, in that getting seeds from a certified source can be able to improve production as we saw. Then there's need for targeting seed affordability, strengthening commercial seed distribution, and also reshaping perceptions around seed sourcing. That one we have also highlighted. And then there's need to subsidize the production and distribution of millet and sorghum to reduce market prices and also enhance affordability for low-income households. And the other recommendations that we had were around the knowledge management in terms of improving the knowledge and perceptions around sorghum and millet, in that the households that need maybe this sorghum and millet are not consuming. Hence, there's need for us to do awareness creation so that we can improve sorghum and millet consumption, even in other areas such as arid and semi-arid regions. Although we did not carry out a study to look at consumption between arid and semi-arid, and also well-endowed or agricultural areas that we have in our country. So those are some of the recommendations that we have. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Hilary, for a very nice presentation. I am counting already 12 questions for you in the chat. Shall we perhaps pick one or two, and then before moving to the next one, and then I'll share them with you, or you can also read from the chat, and then we can leave it for the other presentation, or for the or you can also answer directly in the chat if you like. Would that be okay for you?
Yeah, I'll be able to continue answering on the chat as the other presentation goes on.
Okay. So perhaps I'm start just if I don't know whether you can read it, but the first one was asking how you define the female-headed households.
Yeah, I answered it.
Yes, please go ahead.
Female-headed households are those households that either in our when data is collected, we see that there is indication of the household head who wields the economic power in that household. Sometimes it can have, yes, there might be a man in the house, but the female is the one that has the economic power, and as defined in our KIPS data is that the household head is the one that have that what you call the power to make decisions in the household.
Right. Okay. And there is also another question that is asking, why did you pick millet and sorghum rather than other cereal crops or roots?
So when we wanted to address the issue of why are we depending mostly on maize, yet there are other starchy alternatives that can or not only offer energy but also other nutritional value that we can address, either issues to do with the silent hunger, the micronutrient malnutrition, and others. And when we did a desk review, we found that sorghum and millet are some of the crops that have been known to have high nutritive value that goes above other starchy staples that are there. So we wanted to understand this sorghum and millet that a lot of studies have highlighted their importance in terms of resilience for climate and also nutritive value. They have not been doing well in the country when you look at production metrics as such. So we wanted to understand why we have not taken advantage of that to address the issues of malnutrition, and also if there's vulnerability for maize production, what is our fallback plan? So we looked at that aspect. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. So we have a few questions, seeing a few raised hands. Perhaps if you can be very brief, so we can also move on to the next presentation. Cyrilla Wanda, the first one I see. Please unmute yourself and your question. Cyril? So apparently you cannot hear me. Rod Ndiovu, can you? I see your hand raised. If you can, Rod, if you can. Yes, please. Go ahead with your question. I see he's unmuted, but can you hear us? Can you guy hear me? Hillary, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can still hear you, but members, I don't know why they are not.
Okay.
They are not
Let's see with the last one, Divine Tiokam. if you can unmute yourself. Can you? Yes, please.
Yeah. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm very concerned because first of all, my name is Second Divine, and I was one of the UN Food System champion, where we worked for 18 months to the UN Food System process, and I'm a little bit worried when after doing all this research, we didn't consider the arid or semi-arid regions because the food system is complex, and one of the things we came up with was that it has to be
The
inclusive
voice
in the
is
process.
Sorry.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you can proceed.
Okay, good. Thank you. So what I'm saying is that when we were coming up with the process of the 18-month process of the UN Food System Summit process, I was part of that and one of the champions. And we realized that it was not really inclusive. And what we thought was very important for us to do was to leave no community behind. So I'm a little bit concerned when this very important research and has been done and the semi-arid regions or ecological zones have not been considered. So it means that we are still stepping behind. So I really reconsider that to try to expand this to those regions. And then the next thing before I come over the floor, I think the gender perspective and youth inclusivity and women as well was actually one of the key things that came out of the national 1,000 national pathways after the summit. And that's why every 2 years we try to meet to see how to follow up with member states, how much efforts have been put in. And I really think that this is a very important webinar. And that's why I'm very proud to be part of this research team. And I'll be ready to support at my capacity. Thank you. Over.
Thank you. So as I finished, I said we apologize. We did not do comparative in terms of sorghum and millet production, maybe from Asal and those maybe from the high productive regions in Kenya, of which I think it's something that we can still address. When the recommendation are made, sometimes I look at them that we should be able to bring out that aspect. Where do we want these crops maybe to be more to direct where they should be grown more, but that is limiting in that we want all communities to adopt millet and sorghum because of their nutritive value and also because they can be able to grow in a myriad of ecological zones. So that one should be noted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much again, Hilary. So if you can go through the questions that are in chat and perhaps provide some reply. There is also the request to to share the slides and the recording of the seminar. So we will see how we can then also fulfill this request. For the time being, we move to the second presentation.
Have I pulled down my presentation or still?
Yes, please.
I don't know where to pull it down.
Well, the share button I think should be accompanied also by an great. So Francis, if you can in the meanwhile start loading your presentation. So the second presentation will be about of course the food system in Kenya and mainly looking at addressing fruit and vegetable wastage within informal food markets for sustainable food system. Francis, are you there? Can you upload it? Not sure you can hear me.
Yes, Emmanuel.
Yes,
I can hear you clearly. I'll be uploading my document shortly.
Great. So in the meanwhile, I'm presenting. So Francis Caloi is a researcher with strong interest in food system, climate change, and sustainable agricultural development. He's also a member of KIPRA. His research focus sits on food value chains, food loss and waste, and food security, on climate resilience, and the transformation of informal food markets. And he's particularly interested in generating evidence-based solutions that enhance post-harvest management, improve market efficiency, strengthen the livelihoods, and promote the sustainable food system in Kenya. Through his work, he is committed to advancing research and policy discussion that contribute to a resilient food system. As I said, today he will present his research on fruit and vegetable wastage. Again, without any further ado, I will leave you the floor. I will again make you shout after 25 minutes so we can keep more or less the same structure as for the previous presentation, all right? So the floor is yours, Francis, please.
Thank you very much, and apologies for that, for some internet issues from my end. So my name is Francis Kaloi, a policy analyst from the Kenya Institute for Public Policy Research and Analysis. And I'm privileged to have a presentation on a study titled Food System in Kenya, Addressing Fruit and Vegetable Wastage Within the Informal Food Markets for Sustainable Food Systems in Kenya. Next slide, please. So that will form the outline of the my presentation, a bit of introduction, the focus of the study, and the role of informal foods market in Kenya, a bit of literature review for the theories that underpin the study, the methodology, the results and discussion, and of course, the policy recommendations. Next. Just to give us an overview of the food systems in Kenya or globally, you realize that food loss and food waste is not just an issue that is happening in the global south, but it is cross-cutting in the rest of the globe. So if you look, for example, we lose about a quarter to a third of all food produced for human consumption that is either lost or wasted at the table. So you realize that when you break this one into two for the developed countries and the developing countries, you note that 61% is wasted by the consumer, and 87% is also wasted in the production, storage, and transportation. So it is wasted along the value chains. And out of this, 44% is in the developing countries, while 56% is in the developed countries. So you note that also that calories lost or wasted per person per day is indicated there. And of course, you note that food loss and food waste is actually happening across the globe, be it in the developing countries or the developed countries. Next slide, please. So narrowing down to Kenya, you note that Kenya loses approximately 72 billion Kenya shillings. That is about 72 million USD every year due to limited investment in addressing food loss and food waste. And this is according to statistics reports that were reported by FAO in 2019. And each Kenyan discard approximately 99 kilograms of food annually, which totals to about 5.2 million tons, as reported by UNEP in 2021. So despite all this, we still have an issue of food insecurity. And in 2015, about 1 million people were severely affected by the food insecurity. And of course, this one has continued even in 2021, where we still had more than 2 million households that were facing food insecurity in the country. And this one then indicates that 1 out of 3 Kenyans experiences food insecurity issue. Next slide. From this, then we bring then the role of the informal food markets. What is the role of informal food markets in our country? So its significance because it serves it is significant in terms of food distribution, as it serves as intermediaries for surplus and imperfect produce, and also it enhances food security for low-income populations. So you know that the informal food markets are mostly concentrated in the urban setups, and mostly those who benefit are the urban poor. Also, for the economic contribution is that it provides employment and also supports local economies through the forward and backward linkages in different value chains. And again, it also improves accessibility for fresh produce, especially in underserved areas. So I have already mentioned that. Next slide. So why focus on fruits and vegetables? So the government of Kenya identified the priority value chains of focus, and one of these was the fruits and also the vegetables. And the aim was to support the growth of the export pillar, and therefore that's why we narrowed down to fruits and vegetables, and purposely the avocado fruits that are now being exported, especially to Europe and other countries. And of course, also the vegetables, we narrowed down to tomatoes because of its role in terms of job creation and also food security, as I earlier mentioned. Next slide. So then what is the policy issue is that the loss are estimated to be between 20 to 38% of the output that is lost before reaching the consumers. So along the value chains, you realize that we have a lot of losses that occurs. And of course, these ones accounts for about 20 to 38%. And the major contributor to this is the inadequate storage, the poor demand forecasting, and also transport inefficiencies in the value chains. Next. So then it is against this background that we wanted to, we have these three objectives that addresses the issues. One is to identify the main determinants that contribute to the wastage of fruits and vegetables within the informal food markets. And secondly is to evaluate the key policy and legislative frameworks that are aimed at reducing fruit and vegetable wastage in the informal food markets. And thirdly, to identify the strategies that are used by the informal food markets to reduce the wastages in the value chains. Next. So then when you look at the food loss and waste in Kenya, as I earlier reported, we have to put up to 40% of fresh produce that is lost before reaching the consumers. And again, those ones that are mostly impacted are the fruits and vegetables. And of course, as I earlier mentioned, the key issues within this market, informal food markets, is the issue of infrastructure, sometimes the unhygienic conditions, insufficient waste, and also the insufficient waste management practices. Next. Now, when you look at the country, although we have all these losses that happens along the value chains for fresh produce, that is the fruits and vegetables, you note that as a country, we are not, we've not yet achieved the recommended daily intake for the fruits and vegetables, which is 400 grams per person. So from the graph that is highlighted there, you note that we are still below the 99.5% grams per person. And of course, even when you narrow down to counties, counties are still lagging behind. And of course, this one will automatically lead to food insecurity and also the nutritional deficiencies. Next. Now, for the theoretical framework, the study, we focused on food supply chain theory that underpinned this study. And this theory focuses on the processes from production to consumption. It focuses on the entire value chain. So inefficiencies, it also looks at the inefficiencies that happen at every stage from production all the way to consumption. And of course, its application is that there is need for improvement in the supply chain management in terms of infrastructures, the vendor training, among other determinants of food loss and food waste. The other theory that underpinned this study is the resource-based theory that focuses on managing internal resources to gain competitive advantages. And informal food markets tend to face the resource constraint, like the lack of storage facilities and other infrastructures that are important in preservation of this fresh produce. So then food waste stems from insufficient resources to handle the perishable items like the avocados and the tomatoes. Now, when you look, we looked at different scenarios in our methodology, that is from production, and you note that as I earlier reported, that inefficiencies also happen on the farm. And of course, the unharvested crops due to either lack of labor or even market standard result in losses. Then we also have some losses that occurs during the storage. Some that also happened during the transportation to the markets, to the informal markets. And then at the food waste, then it means that we have food that is lost in the restaurants, those that are also lost in the households, and of course in the stores. So from the data set that we had, we narrowed down to those the food waste and food loss that happen at the retail level. And next. And from this, we were able to give an estimation, or rather to give an econometric analysis of the proportion that is discarded, of tomatoes that is discarded, to the total that retailers purchased. Then we also looked at the proportion that is discarded of avocados to the total that is purchased. The econometric modeling that we applied, one is the Tobit model, which handles censored or corner solution, and whereby the food waste proportion are bounded between 0 and 1 from the proportions that we were estimating. Next. And for the second objective, which is to determine the strategies employed by the fruit and vegetable vendors to minimize wastages, we used the OLS technique for estimation. And of course, it's because this model provides the best linear and biased estimators. And therefore, we were able to give an estimation of the key strategies that are employed by the food vendors. Next. So for our data sources, we relied first with the Hungry City survey that was conducted in 2019 in Nairobi, whereby a total of 1,267 informal food vendors were interviewed across 8 administrative divisions in Nairobi. And from this, a multi-stage proportional to geographical size of random sampling method was used, and of course, through the cluster identification, the proportional to sampling, and of course, systemic random selections in order to get the food vendors, in order to select the food vendors within each retail cluster. So in addition to this, we also did a pre-visit just to back the data, the 2019 data. We did also some of the key informant interviews in the informal food markets. Next. So for the summary statistics, you note that the proportion of avocado that is discarded had a mean of 10.6%, and it ranged between 0 and 78%. Then that then implies that we had some of the food vendors that lost up to 78% of the tomatoes that they'd bought for packaging and reselling. Then in terms of the tomatoes that were discarded, you note that 4.9, the mean was 8.75%, and still it ranged between 0 and 50%. So for the tomatoes that households bought, or rather, sorry, the food vendors bought, some lost up to 50% of the same. Now, in terms of the startup capital, this one, the average was 18,499 Kenya shillings. And also this one ranged between 1,400 to 100,000 Kenya shillings. In terms of their age, we had a mean age of 33 years. And of course, this one also ranged between 18 to 71 years. That means that we still held persons that are older people still in the value chain conducting the business. Then in terms of the number of years of vending, that is the experience. Some had experience of over 36 years, but the mean age was 4 years. And of course, that one tells you that we have a youthful population joining the value chain just to create a job. Then in terms of gender distribution, 49% were male, while females were 51% of the vendors. In terms of market structures, you note that those that were in temporary stalls were 86%, while those ones that had permanent stall were 14%. Then this one implies that even as we focus on this value chains intervention in this area, you note that we still have a lot of losses. And of course, it's even because of the kind of structures that the food vendors are using. Then for the education, 57% had high school certificate. Then 15% had primary, while 8% had no formal education. And at the tertiary level, we had 20% of the vendors that were interviewed. Now, in terms of access to credit, 84% reported that they did not receive any support in terms of either startup capital or even any support, any financial support to conduct or rather to run a business. While 15% reported that they were able to access loans either by use of collaterals or even from friends and other money and from other financial institutions like the microfinances and the SACCOs. Now, in terms of those ones that were connected to electricity, you note that 60% reported that they were not connected to electricity. And of course, you can connect this one even with the market structure. Remember that we reported that for the temporary stall, over 86% had temporary stall. And for 40% were connected with electricity, which is quite insignificant for the food vendors. And of course, that one then implies that there were no preservation equipments or even the cold rooms to store their produce. Then in terms of record keeping, those ones that were able to keep their records, 92% reported that they were able to keep their records, while 7% reported that, Hilary? 92% reported that they had no any keeping record, while 7% reported that they were able to keep their records. Next. Now, from our results, you note that access to storage facilities was one of the variables that was significant, and this one implies that access to storage facilities tends to reduce avocado wastages, although with a relatively small effect. And of course, this one is also backed by other studies. Then for vendor training, it was also a significant variable, and vendors that were able to either to be trained on best practices had lower losses compared to those that had no training on the same. Then again, you note that in terms of years of experience, vendors that were more older, that were more younger, tend to have to be more innovative and identify different innovations that they could be able to use in order to just mitigate the losses that were occurring in the food markets. Then for access to credit, it was also a significant variable that affected the food waste and food loss. Next. The other variable that was significant was inventory management. That is those vendors that were able to keep their records. And you note that systemic record keeping was linked to reduce wastages through better forecasting and even stock rotation. So those vendors that were able to accurately keep their record had a better supply chain efficiency. Now, in terms of training, it was also a variable that was significant with a negative coefficient, indicating that training improved post-harvest handling and also it reduces wastages. And of course, this one corroborates with other studies that showed that vendor education on storage, sorting, and transport leads to better product quality and lower wastages. Next. So I think I've already explained about this one, but you note that for the strategies that vendors were using, you note that change of suppliers was one of the strategies that vendors used, although it was a variable that was not significant. And then change of prices. So sometimes you note that for vendors to dispose some of their produce, they had to either lower their prices in order to attract more consumers. And of course, through that strategy, they were also able to reduce their losses. Next. Then access to storage facilities was also a significant variable, whereby vendors with storage facilities had lower discard, or rather discarded fewer tomatoes. And of course, this one also is supported by with other studies like the Kitinoja et al. And also when it comes to market structures, they were also highly significant, whereby if you had an upgraded or rather a structured stalls, it reduced the discard rates. Then also a vendor with credit access or also had lower discard tomatoes. Next. Now, in conclusion, you note that access to storage facilities was one of the key determinants of fruit and vegetable wastages, and it is essential for preserving produce and reducing spoilage. Also, vendor training, access to credit was also part of the key determinants in terms of reduction of fruits and vegetable wastages. For market structures, those ones that had permanent stalls, you note that they offer better condition for preservation of this fresh produce compared to those ones that had temporary stalls. And the key issues that were also identified from this is that inadequate storage came out strongly, and of course, it contributed a lot to spoilage of perishable items like the avocados and the tomatoes. And also lack of vendor training also hampers effective produce management. And from this, we give this recommendation. One is that there is need to enhance storage infrastructure to promote affordable solutions like the subsidized cold storage, the mobile units, and even the evaporative coolers. And of course, through this, we'll be able to reduce the wastage of the fresh produce and of course, support even the food security pillar. The other one is to improve the vendor training. You know that they were more in informal setups in the urban centers. So there was need to develop training programs in post-harvest handling, storage, and also inventory management through collaboration with government and other market association. Also, there was need to facilitate access to credit. You note that these people, the food vendors, had no collaterals for them to access the financial support. So there is needed to introduce low interest loans and financial literacy programs to support the vendors. Now, in terms of improvement of market structure, there is need to upgrade informal market stalls with better ventilation, shelving, and also temperature control systems. And finally, there is need to strengthen regulatory frameworks to address challenges like the confiscation through clear guidelines and vendor education. And I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Francis. Perfect on time. Also, in your case, I think there is a list of questions you can see in the chat. So please feel free to look at them and perhaps reply also during the next presentation. But I think there is one important one that was asked that perhaps we can start to answer now. That is that's actually at both, or in case also to the three presenters, which is if they want to know how the findings of this research will be used for policy brief, and how they will then be somehow to make it more general, translated into policy recommendation for your policymakers. So perhaps if you can also, the three of you, will elaborate on this question.
Yeah,
and then we will check also the other one that are in the chat. Yes, please, Hilary, go ahead.
Yeah, you will go first. After the completion of the study, every discussion paper usually is accompanied by a policy brief, of which we are an advanced stage of preparing. And then we also do disseminations, and in that we have reports that we shall write, but also there's an avenue for policy memorandum that we prepare so that we can influence policy in terms of decision making to various sectors that are involved in this work or that are their mandate touches on the work that we are doing. For instance, the one that I've just presented on sorghum and millet, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Division of Crops will be able to consume the information more so when it comes to how can we influence certified seed adoption among sorghum and millet farmers so that we can improve on production. And also to the larger population, how can we influence consumption of this sorghum and millet, in that there is need for a development of a framework to see that we have created awareness around consumption of sorghum and millet because of their nutritive value and also because of their resilient to climate variabilities. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Hilary. I don't know, Francis, if you want to expand on this.
Yeah, maybe I can comment on the same first, because we've already completed the 3 studies. We were able to generate a policy memoranda addressing specific institutions, be it the Ministry of Agriculture or the National Treasury. And in addition to that, we also had a validation workshop, and we were able to map our key stakeholders. But again, I believe there's still room for us to generate the policy briefs and other outputs that can be able to inform the policy.
Great. Thank you. Perhaps if whenever you these documents are available, I think you can also share other in the, or you can share the website where the people can find, would be able to find those documents once they would be finalized on the Kipra website. I suppose. Okay. So for trying to keep on time, I would, Francis, if you can, perhaps have a look at the chat and the question you have received during your presentation, and please try to reply directly through the chat itself if you can. I don't know whether Hilary is also trying to do it for the previous one.
Yes, I'm doing that. It's only that I was presenting, so I stopped. But
yeah, you're right. Sorry about that. So we will now go through the last of the 3 presentation. Jacinta Anomat Ali. I hope she's around. I hope she's gonna be able to share her presentation without any technical issues. Jacinta, are you there?
Yes, thank you, Ferrari.
So please, if you can, upload your presentation. So Jacinta will present a review of the policy, legislative and institutional framework for food and nutrition security in Kenya. Jacinta is also a member of Kipra. She's a researcher with strong interest in food and nutrition security and food system governance. Her research focuses on the legislative and institutional frameworks that influence the food and nutrition security in Kenya, and in particular on the food production availability, access, safety, and quality, but also on social protection system and climate resilient food system. Again, for the 3rd time, we are very interested researcher to generate evidence-based policy solution to strengthen the coordination, in our case, and promote a sustainable and diversified food system, and to enhance the resilience to climate change and improve livelihoods and nutrition outcomes among vulnerable population. So once again, we see the presentation, but not in presentation mode. Perhaps if you can switch to that. I'll leave you the floor and around 25 minutes, while then we will have an overall discussion. Yes, and I also remind colleagues, I invite you to remain throughout the whole presentation, but in case you will have to leave before, please take a minute I will put in the chat again, take a minute to go through the web page and provide feedbacks to the seminar, so that this will also help us for future seminars and organization of future seminars. Jacinta, thanks a lot. The floor is yours. Please proceed with the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Ferrari. So I hope you can be able to hear me. So
we do.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Jacinta, just as Ferrari said, a policy analyst at that is the same department, productive sector department. So my colleagues have been able to present on the food system. I think now in terms of this is that presentation, we are looking at the coherence in terms of policy on that is in terms of food nutrition security. So the study was on the review of the policy, legislative and institutional frameworks, that is for food and nutrition security in Kenya. Just to give an outline on what we expect in terms of the presentation, we'll first have an introduction to give us an overview and then look at food and security in Kenya, highlight the objectives of this work, what is the methodology that was used, and be able to give the results and discussion, conclude, and finally be able to give our policy recommendations on the same. So to kickstart, just to help us understand what food security is, we understand that food security is whereby we are trying to have a sustainable access to a safe food and food that is sufficient and of good quality and quantity, and normally having that is the protein, energy, and other micronutrients that are required for every human in terms of consumption. So, and you find that in terms of access to these nutritious food has remained a problem, even as highlighted in previous presentation. So we find that in the country, we just to give an outline in terms of factors that have been contributing to food security, we have issues around agricultural production and also issues around population growth and inefficient food system. And also there's the factor of climate change affecting the same. So we understand that 18% of children under 5 are still stunted, 5% being wasted, and 10% are being underweight. So these are some of the issues that we are trying to highlight to be able to catch the eye of the policymaker, such that even as we review these policies, are we able to tackle some of these issues that are coming as policy issues affecting the country. And in terms of having policies within this sector, there's need to have a comprehensive policy framework so that we can be able to guide the mandate of the government on the same. So these policies are supposed to give the intent on what the government is trying to solve, that is in terms of food security. So having a functional food system being supported by these policies is very necessary in terms of bringing reforms within the sector. We understand that food security remains a basic human right, as even are supported by the Constitution and other policies that are there. So, and we are trying to see in terms of analyzing the trends in terms of the status of food security with the data that we had. So we find that food security and malnutrition have been on the rise alongside population growth, because we highlighted earlier that population is an issue that is affecting food security in the country. So this is just to help us understand the area in terms of what are the issues that are coming out. So we find that even as the population increases, we find that issues around food security are coming at play. So in terms of the objective of the study, this study was analyzing the existing policy, legislative and institutional frameworks, that is for food and nutritional security in Kenya, and be able to identify the gaps and the challenges in these policies, legislations, and even institutional framework. And then towards the end, we can be able to give what are the recommendations that can be put into place to be able to fill the gaps and be able to address the issue at hand. So those are the two objectives that we looked at. So in terms of methodology, this was more of qualitative because it was a review. So it was a comprehensive review whereby we were reviewing existing policies, the institutional and legislative frameworks, and also looking at the literature from journals that have been able to do similar work, and that is both in government and other institutions. So, and this work we wanted in terms of analysis to analyze these issues thematically so that we can be able to to see which are the themes that are coming out in terms of food and nutritional security. So the work was analyzed thematically depending on the issue in terms of the policy. So within these themes, for example, if we are looking at a policy, we were looking at if these themes are being addressed within this policy or even institutional framework. And so we were able to identify thematic areas around food production and availability, food access, looking at food standard, quality control and safety. There was nutrition awareness and even education, looking at the issues around employment and improvement and environment. And lastly, we looked at the thematic areas around social safety nets, food subsidy programs, and even cash transfer. So these are the areas that were able to help us and even to guide us in terms of analyzing these policies. And so in here, we've been able to give to understand what is under food production availability and what does food production and availability entails, and find that food production availability entails having enough food being produced and it being accessible to meet the dietary needs of a population. So basically, that is about food production. And within food production, there are these sub-themes that arise. That is in terms of technology and even inputs. There is issues around price stability and marketing, post-harvest losses, measuring the availability, and even the marketing system on the same. So those were the themes that were coming out in terms of food production and availability. And on the second theme that we analyzed is around access, whereby is the ability of those individuals to be able to get a sufficient, safe and nutritious food to meet their dietary needs. And under food access, we looked issues around infrastructure, affordability, and even food distribution. So those were the themes that were analyzed under food access. As we move forward, we'll be able to explain and see how the issues were being picked under those legislative and policies. So the other theme coming out was a food safety standard and quality. And we also been able to give the sub-themes on the same. That is food safety hygiene, the standard, the inspection and satisfaction. And also the other one was nutrition awareness. Awareness is around issues around nutrition education. Sorry for that. So nutrition education and a public campaign and awareness, how are they covered under these policies? So those are the issues. And in terms of improvement and environment, so we are looking at emphasis around sustainable agriculture practices. So if these policies are touching on such issues, are they coming out in terms of how environment and agriculture are supposed to come around? So when you talk about improvement and environment, you are talking about the environmental impact, climate smart agriculture under the same area. That is in terms of sustainable agriculture. When you talk about social safety nets, these are issues around food subsidy program, cash transfers, and even emergency food assistance. So all these are the sub-themes that are supposed to be for us to be able to analyze and see, are they coming out under this policy to ensure food security in the country. So this is giving the analytical framework just to explain, like summarize what I've been able to speak. I've been able to mention just earlier. So whereby we are developing, look at the scope and the themes, being able to identify what are the relevant policy documents that we were able to identify, and then review those policies, of course, thematically, as we indicated, and then identify the gaps, and then lastly, giving the policy recommendation on the same. So we will go direct in terms of how we've been able to give what we were able to look at, the key policy document coming out. So, and what are those policies were able to highlight in terms of agricultural productivity. So we find that Agriculture Act of the Agriculture Act Cap 318 and Regulation 2012 guidelines for quality control and distribution of agriculture input And the National Food and Nutrition Security Policy of 2011 emphasizes on the modern production technologies. Remember that we said in terms of production, we are looking issues around production technologies and inputs. So so you're able to highlight these are some of the policies that we are trying to emphasize on the same issues. And in terms of the role of horticulture in Kenya's economy and even the production support services, the horticulture policy of 2012 was able to give some of these issues and highlighting them and what is being given on the same. The Kenya seed policy was another policy that we were able to look at, which talked about the contribution of agriculture to the GDP growth and overview of seed production management system. So the policy also talks about the importance of germplasm conservation and even local capacity building. In terms of the policy on those the instrument that you are able to review, you find that there is the issue of implementation gaps, especially at the county level, even though you find that some of these policies were developed before the formation of the counties, so which calls upon the revision on the same to be able to look, or some things were not being cascaded down, even though you find that at the national level, the national government is supposed to make those policies, and then they are supposed to be implemented down at the county level. So those are some of the issues that are coming out. There is the limited access to input for smallholder farmers, and also the issues around coordination on the same. So I also find that the policies were not able to outline the issues around funding, where the source of funding was coming from to be able to support most of the implementation of the areas in terms of production and technologies that were highlighted in those policies. So those are some of the gaps that we felt like the policy still needs to address. The second theme on food access, we say that is the ability of those individuals to be able to, for the household to be able to obtain sufficient, safe, and nutritious food, which is necessary for health and active life. And when you talk about access, normally we look at issues around infrastructure, affordability, and even food distribution. So we find that infrastructure itself impact on food availability and even affordability, and even we look at how the food is getting from one place to another. So in terms of the policies that are supporting this theme, I find that the National Trade Policy of 2017 guides the development of rural road and transport infrastructure. And there is a Vision 2030, which is almost ending, and we'll be having the post-Vision 2030. But this one that we have at the moment prioritizes infrastructure projects to be able to enhance food access in rural areas. So, and there is a Road Act of 2007 and the Public Roads and Roads of Access Cap 399. So these are some of the policies that you are able to look that are supporting the infrastructure logistic on the same. So in terms of the same, that is accessibility, we find that the National Food and Nutrition Security advocates for food price stabilization, that is in terms of through subsidies, and the agriculture sector's transformation growth strategy support the market intervention for price stabilization. So we find that issues around affordability and pricing are still being captured within these policies. And there is also the issue of policy addressing the distribution aspect on the same. We find that the National Agriculture Policy 2019 aims to improve the distribution network to underserved regions on the same. So, and we find that the Crop Act of 2013, among the other policies that were identified, we outline the responsibility for efficient distribution on the same. So in terms of pointing out the gaps within those policies, that in terms of accessibility, we find that the National Food and Nutrition Security Policy, even though it's being reviewed, lacks the concrete mechanism for monitoring and evaluating the implementation of the same. And you find that the SDGs 2019-2019 still likes the guidelines in terms of managing and targeting the subsidies effectively. So it means that this is still a gap that is there in terms of this strategy. There is insufficient integration of urban and rural logistics systems, even though we find that the policies are trying to tackle issues around transportation and road networks. So, for the Vision 2030, I think we can, even though we have the MTPs that come from that is being implemented from it, there's still not specific in terms of timelines and accountability aspect in terms of project affecting accessibility. The third theme in terms of food safety, standard and quality, food safety, standard and quality, normally it's like the growing demand that is in terms of food, especially we had talked issues around population. That means especially in urban areas, people are trying to innovate more in terms of food processing, even to tackle the growing population. So it means that when you talk about food and nutrition security, food safety and standard must be an issue that has to be addressed. So the pest control product is one that is trying to regulate in terms, they regulate the agricultural chemicals being used for pest controls. And also it guides in terms of the approvals and even registration and the disposal of of pest control substance. So even though you find that issues around food safety has been an issue in the country, we have the policy guiding it, but in terms of implementation, that is where maybe the question is in terms of how it's supposed to be done. Food and Drug Control Act aims to prevent the adulteration of food, chemicals, and even drugs, such that the same policy has been able to mandate in terms of fortification of specific food items. So those are some of the issues that are coming out in terms of quality and even standard of food that are required in the country. So those are some of the areas that the policies were able to tackle. So in terms of the gaps on the same, in terms of implementation issues are coming out, that is lack of financing and recruitment for necessary technical officers. For example, the public health officers who are supposed to be able to take care of food safety and control the food being processed it was an issue that was coming out. And even in terms of extension officers, that is in the agricultural sector, to be able to enforce issues around standard on how to the use of pesticides. So was an issue that came out. So another issue that came out in terms of implementation of the insufficient education and safe storage practices are still an issue. I think this one was also mentioned by Kaloi in his study. That is safe storage practice among small-scale farmers is still insufficient in terms of education and even awareness. In terms of regulatory gaps, we find that there's fragmentation in terms of the legislations on the same, which leads to inconsistent enforcement on the same. So those are some of the issues that were coming out on the same theme. In terms of nutrition, environment, and irrigation, here we are trying to look at the interconnectedness, that is in terms of nutrition, environment, and irrigation on the same. And we were able to highlight some of the policies that are trying to address the issues and be able to see, are they all covered or there's something that needs to be done. So the National Environmental Policy 2013 focuses on addressing environmental degradation from agriculture, and at the same time it promotes the conservation of natural resources. So that means issues around conservation are being taken care of. The Kenya Green Economy Strategy aims to integrate environmental sustainability into economic planning. And in terms of legislations, we have the MCAN 1999, and recently we have the revision on the same. So, which provides the guidelines for environmental assessment for agricultural projects. So this one is linking now in terms of environment and even agricultural issues. And on the same, we normally talk about issues around environmental impact assessment. Of course, we have guidelines on the same. being implemented to be able to help. In any project that is being done, we have to see what will be the impact on the environment, and that means we talk issues around sustainability on the same. So those are some of the policies that we've been able to highlight supporting the same thematic area. So there's the National Water Master Plan. So we are looking at issues around irrigation. So such that the dependency for food security promotes irrigation development and even accessibility issues. So, but now when you look at the gaps, we find that environmental policies do not actually address directly issues around food security, but mostly you'll find they talk about issues of sustainability, such that when you have, as we develop those agricultural areas, are we able to take care of the environment on the same? So those are some of the issues that were coming out. But now when you talk at addressing food security, that still is a gap. The National Water Master Plan, we find that it lacks the focus in terms of managing water for food production during drought. So that means there's still more that can be done, and we know that the country in some instances has been having issues around drought in which leads to food insecurity. So that means there is still room in terms of the master plan itself. The third is the fifth one is theme, which is awareness and education. So we are trying to see how education and awareness can be able to influence the social, cultural, and behavioral changes. And here, under awareness and education, we are looking at issues around nutrition, education policies, the school health regulation, and even issues around campaign and awareness. So in terms of nutrition education policies, the National Food and Nutrition Security Policy of 2012, we say that there's a draft that has been developed in terms of revision on the same. So integrate the nutrition education into the public health programs. And there is the Basic Education Act of 2013, which manages the incorporation of nutrition education into the school curricula. So the school health and nutrition regulations, we have them for 2015, which is a framework for teaching and promoting healthy nutrition in schools. So we find that we still have those policies tackling the issues of health regulations. In terms of public campaign and awareness, we find that the issues around promotion of public awareness on healthy diet is still there. And the Public Health Act Cap 242 is a framework that has a framework for health education, ensuring that there is accurate information in terms of food products on the same. So, for example, if you have a certain product, are we able to highlight what is in that food product on the same? In terms of the gap that we're able to highlight, there's the issues of insufficient focus on indigenous food. I think this one came out in the first presentation. That is insufficient promotion of traditional food diversification, which is critical for improvement nutrition, which is an issue that was able to, of course, and even this one now justifies why we needed to be able to do this first study. That is in terms of bringing issues around sorghum. That is integrating it to be one of the stable food people can be able to adopt. So it means that there's still insufficient focus on these indigenous food. So and also issues around current policies do not adequately address both the supply and even the demand side of the food system. So those are some of the gaps that are coming out in terms of awareness. In terms of social safety nets, food subsidy programs, and even cash transfers, these ones normally in the country target the vulnerable populations. For example, we have the elderly, the orphans. So such people are the ones who we try to see if there are policies that are trying to cover them. What we've been having here, we've just found issues around the programs that are being implemented on the same. And you find that there's still issues around in terms of gaps of implementing the same, even though we have the NDMA, I think in terms of who are implementing some of these programs on the same. So in terms of emergency food assistance, in case there's any issue, there's the National Disaster Management Policy of 2009 and the NDMA Act of 2016. So these are some of the policies that are guiding the same. But now in terms of gaps, you find that there is lack of comprehensive emergency response, even though we have some issues around fully integrated that is lack of comprehensive emergency response, not fully integrated with the existing social safety net. So those are some of the gaps that we've been able to identify on the same.
Jacinta, may I ask you if you can somehow go towards the conclusion so we leave some time for final discussion?
Yes, I think we're almost there. So
Thank
in terms of
Sorry for
institutional framework, yes. In the institutional framework here, we are trying to highlight some of the formal and informal organization, and even that is in terms of rules and norms that guide, that is in terms of governance. And normally they influence the decision making and they guide in terms of the direction of implementing some of these policies that are in place. So, for example, they are tasked with the development of these policies, their implementation, and even monitoring if the policies are working or not. So we were able to come up or highlight some of these key institutions that are there. So I don't think we can be able to dwell into that on the same, but these are in talk of the institution framework, that is what we mean. So in terms, but I'll be able to highlight in terms of the gaps. So we find that there is inadequate coordination among those institutions because we find that some institutions were there that were doing this similar things. That means there was duplication of roles and even mandate by the different institutions. And of course, now in terms of coordination among those institutions. In conclusion, we find that addressing the thematic areas that we've been able to highlight is very important, especially in addressing food security and nutrition in the country, because those are the thematic areas are able to guide us in terms of what are the issues or how can we be able to address some of the issues that are impacting in terms of food and nutrition security. So, and that means collaborative efforts are needed across sectors, county, and even national government to be able to strengthen and enhance policy, regulatory, and even institutional framework for its effectiveness. And lastly, in terms of policy recommendations, as we were able to review these policies and even regulation institutional framework, we felt that when we were able to highlight those gaps that were there, when they are being reviewed, there is need to be able to further look at them and the ones that are being implemented to continue implementing them and even improve them further. So that is a recommendation that you're able to give. And in additional to that, in terms of apart from implementing and even improving them, it is very important to look at issues around improving agricultural productivity, whereby we can have, as we develop those policies, can we be able to tackle issues around agricultural productivity, so that as we develop the policies, we can be able to support research and development on the same to be able to increase the high yield on the same, so that when you talk about issues around productivity, they can be able to tackle that, and that means we are improving food security on the same. Enhancing food access programs, I think those were some of the issues that were coming out in those policies. That means that there is need to enact targeted programs that can provide financial assistance, such as subsidies or even direct transfers for those populations that are being affected. Issues that came out also on those policies was around food distribution and systems. That means they need to invest in the infrastructure, that is infrastructure improvement, to be able to ensure that food is distributed to the relevant population. And in terms of implementing food safety, so that means there's still more in terms of resources, because we could be able to see what people receive at the end of the month, or that are being given, that is the target population. We still find that they are not able to take care of their needs in terms of food availability. and at the household level. So those are some of the issues that were coming out, and we recommend the same to be taken care of to be able to ensure food and nutrition security is ensured. So I think the other one is in promotion of nutrition education, that this one needs to be increased. And of course, I've been able to talk about issues around social safety and net extension on the same. So I think I can be able to stop it there. Thank you for your audience.
Great. Thank you very much, Jacinta. Thank you again to the previous presenter. So I think we had 3 great presentations. I'm happy to let you know that the presentation will be shared once we in the next days to the attendance to the seminar. So you will have the possibility to go through them again, and perhaps also to contact the presenters. We have a few more minutes. I don't know if there is no specific questions. Let's see, not as far as I have seen in the chat related to this third presentation. I've seen Hilary is going through all their questions, let's say, and trying to reply to all of them. If anybody has any question, he can also raise his hands and speak. I think we have a few more minutes. I want to go much beyond the 2 hours. And on my side, again, I would. So if there is no additional question, I will just take this moment to wrap up and give you some additional information before we close. So let me thank again Hilary, Francis, Jacinta, and the whole Kipra team for this very informative and insightful presentation. Thank you very much. So, as mentioned at the very beginning, this series of webinar is on a monthly basis. So I will invite you to keep you updated on the activity of the network on different websites. So we have the PANAP website, the StepForce website, where we try to list all events we share in the chat before leaving, so you can follow. There is the LinkedIn StepForce webpage where you can also be updated on all the events. We will announce soon the upcoming webinar for the next month. This said, I'll also invite you again to please fill in the questionnaire and the feedback for the seminar following this barcode that I've just posted. So thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the time of spending with us this couple of hours on these very relevant issues. Thank you for the interaction and the question you have posed to our presenters, and for the interest in the topic. We will be again together soon for the next series of the webinar. So please follow the PANAP in events through all the different channels. And thank you again for being with us today.